This is 6.6 of algebra. So we looked at systems of equations before, where we had like y equals 2x plus 3 and y equals 4x minus 2 or something like that, right? So we, on a graph, graphed both equations, and they intersected at a point, and that was our solution. Well, now what we're going to do is we're going to take equations with inequalities, and we're going to graph a system of inequalities. So now we're going to have two different equations that are going to have inequalities in them. Remember when we're graphing inequalities, we shade. So in this case, we're going to shade one direction, we're going to shade the other direction, and wherever they overlap is our solution. So there's a lot more options for solutions. So let's try our own problem now. Here's our system. Our first equation, that's okay, we'll be able to graph that, but we need to rearrange our second equation. So I've got negative 3x plus y is less than or equal to negative 4. I need to get it so that I can graph it. I'm going to put it into slope-intercept form so that I get y equals mx plus b. So I'm going to add 3x to both sides. I get that y is less than or equal to 3x minus 4. So there's my second equation that I'll graph. I'm going to draw my graph over here. Okay, first I'm going to graph this first equation. So I'm going to put a point at 5 on my y-axis, and my slope is negative 1, so I'm going to go down 1 to the right 1, down 1 to the right 1. And looking at my equation, this is a solid line because it has that line underneath it. And then I need to shade. So I'm going to plug in a point. I'm going to plug in 0, 0 since that's easiest. So I get 0 is greater than or equal to negative 0 plus 5, which is just 0 is greater than or equal to 0 plus 5. Right? Negative 0 is just 0. So I get that 0 is greater than or equal to 5. That's false. Not true. So I'm not going to shade my 0, 0 side. I'm going to shade the other side. If you're doing this all in pencil, it might be a good idea to shade, just like draw lines in one direction, and then when you shade the other one, draw the lines in the other direction. Or you can use different colors. So now I'm going to graph our second equation. So I'm going to put a dot at negative 4. And our slope is 3, so 3 over 1. So I'm going to go up 3 and to the right 1. And if we look at that, that's a solid line, so I'm going to connect those. Oops. Oh. There we go, that's pretty good. I guess I could go a little further. And then I need to plug into plug a point in. So I'm going to plug 0, 0 again just because it's easy. So again, I'm plugging into this equation here. So 0 is less than or equal to 3 times 0 minus 4. 0 is less than or equal to 0 minus 4. 0 is less than or equal to negative 4. 0 is smaller than negative 4? No. So this is false. So I'm not going to shade the 0, 0 side. I'm not going to shade over here. Right, I'm going to shade the other side. So I'm going to shade over here. So where our solution is inside here. And anything on these lines work as well because we have solid lines. But anything in here is a solution. Where you see the blue and you see the orange. Okay, now we're going to look at this graph and we're going to come up with our own system for it. So let's start with the blue one. So I'm going to do y box mx plus b. So our y-intercept for our blue line, our b is 1. And then I need to figure out my slope. I go up 1 over 2. So that is a slope of 1/2. And then I need to figure out which way my symbol goes. 0, 0 is a solution, so I'm going to use 0, 0. If 0, 0 wasn't colored in by the blue, right, the blue all colors down here, then I need to find a different point that was colored in. So I'm going to plug in 0, 0. Get 0 box, 0 plus 1. So I get 0 and 1, so I need to eat the 1, right? Open towards the 1. And this is a solid line, so I'm going to put the line underneath it. So I'm going to use this symbol and plug it into this equation. So I get y is less than or equal to 1/2 x plus 1. So there's my first equation. Now I'm going to figure out my second one. So y box mx plus b. So my y-intercept for my red line is also at 1. My slope, I go up 1 and over 2. So this is a negative slope. So this is a negative 1/2. And again, I need to plug in a point. 0, 0 is also a solution, right? Because this is all the yellow stuff. So I'm going to plug in 0, 0. I get 0 and 0 plus 1. Again, I get 0 and 1. So it's going to eat this direction. It doesn't have a line because it's dotted. So I'm going to use this symbol in this equation. And I get that y is less than negative 1/2 x plus 1. So those are my two equations for the system. Okay. Let me erase that for us. We're going to do this story problem, all right? It says you want to build a fence for a rectangular dog run. You want the run to be at least 10 feet wide. The run can be at most 50 feet long. You have 126 feet of fencing. So we're going to get three different equations from this. First one, it says you want the run to be at least 10 feet wide. At least is talking about 10 and higher. So let's use W. We have W and 10, and we need to say that we want 10 to be the smallest number, right? 10 is the smallest number that's acceptable, and we want everything that's 10 and up. So I need to go this direction, and I need to put a line underneath it because we said 10 feet is okay. Then it says the run can be at most 50 feet long. So our L and 50, at most means 50 is the highest, 50 is the biggest. And it's okay to have 50. And then, okay, so think of this picture here. Right, here's our width, length. The whole fence needs to be 126 feet or less, right? We only have 126 feet of fencing. So W plus L plus W plus L. We've got the 126. 126 is the biggest we can be. And it's okay if we use all the fence, so I've got it less than or equal to. And I can simplify that to be 2W plus 2L is less than or equal to 126. So now I'm going to graph this. And I'm going to make my W on the bottom and my L on the side. I don't know what my scale is going to be, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to rearrange this equation. Or I'm not going to rearrange this equation. I'm going to figure out how to graph it using our x and our y intercepts. So up here I've got 2w plus 2l is less than or equal to 126. So if I'm trying to find the w intercept, that's when l is equal to 0. So that would be 2w plus 0, right? So plus 2 times 0. Less than or equal to 126. So that's just 2w is less than or equal to 126, right? Because 2 times 0 is 0. Divide by 2. And at w, I need to put a dot at 63. So for my w, I'm going to go up, let's go up by tens. I'll put a dot at about 63. Then I'm going to do the same thing. I'll have my L-intercept where W is equal to 0. So we get 2 times 0 plus 2L is less than or equal to 126. So 2L is less than or equal to 126. When I divide by 2, I also get 63. So let's go up by 10s also over here. And I'll put a dot at about 63. This equation, right, the symbol tells me it's a solid line, so I'm going to connect those with a solid line. Okay, and then I need to figure out how to shade it. So let's plug in 0, 0, right? That's the easiest one to plug in. 2 times 0 plus 2 times 0 is less than or equal to 126. 0 plus 0 is less than or equal to 126. 0 is smaller than 126. That is true. So I'm going to shade underneath. So I'm going to color all of this in. And then I still got 2 other equations to graph. So let's graph that W is greater than or equal to 10. So I'm going to put a line at 10, right, and it's solid. And then I need to color in everything that's bigger than 10. So I'm coloring in this way. Everything over here. And then our last equation is that L is less than or equal to 50. So I put my line at 50 on my L axis. And we're talking about everything smaller than that. So I'm going to shade in below that. So I've got spots where my purple and my green overlap, and I've got spots where my orange and my purple overlap. But where all my solutions are is where my purple, orange, and green overlap. So in this shape right there in red. Anything on the line and anything in there is a solution. And there's your homework.